Thinking about GLP-1s to help with weight loss? Go micro with Noom. You start off with a small dose of medication, then gradually increase as your body reacts. The Noom GLP-1 microdose program starts at $79 and is delivered to your door in 7 days. Start your microdose GLP-1 journey today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Noom. Micro changes, big results. Initial 3-week subscription and 4 weeks of medication from $79 plus tax, and $179 per month plus tax for 7-week subscription thereafter. Final pricing depends on program selection.
Welcome to the Safe Place podcast, Blue Oak Counselling. I'm Steve, and I'm really glad you're here. This is a trauma-informed counselling podcast for Australians seeking support, clarity, and hope after trauma. In this podcast, we explore trauma, recovery, mental health, and counselling in a way that is clear, compassionate, and grounded in real life. Today's episode is called The Body Remembers: How Trauma Lives in the Nervous System. The body knows before words arrive. A lot of people know logically that something is over. The accident is over. The abuse is over. The relationship is over. The emergency is over. And yet the body does not seem to have got the memo. The body is still tense, still scanning, still bracing, still waking up at odd hours, still reacting to sounds, smells, tone of voice, footsteps, doors closing, certain dates, certain places, certain facial expressions. Still jumping, still freezing, still going numb, still acting like danger might be one room away. That disconnect can be maddening. People often say, I know I'm safe, so why doesn't my body know it? Or, why do I react before I've even had time to think? This episode is really about one big idea. Trauma is not only something we remember with our mind, it is also something the body can continue responding to. Current Australian trauma-informed guidance describes trauma as involving survival responses, autonomic arousal, altered threat detection, and patterns that can continue long after the original event has passed. What we mean by the nervous system. When people hear nervous system, they sometimes picture a school science diagram and immediately switch off. Stay with me. You do not need a neuroscience degree for this part. Very broadly, the nervous system is part of the body's communication and survival machinery. It helps detect what is happening around you, interpret whether something feels safe or dangerous, and organize your body's response. That includes heart rate, breathing, muscle tension, digestion, startle, attention, and the shift between feeling calm, mobilized, overwhelmed, or shut down. In ordinary life, this system helps you wake up, settle down, focus, react to risk, recover after stress, and return to baseline after something difficult. Trauma can change that rhythm. A traumatic experience or repeated traumatic experiences can teach the nervous system that the world is less safe than it seemed before. In some cases, it can become more reactive, more vigilant, more easily triggered, or more prone to collapse and shutdown. The body can react before the mind explains. One of the most frustrating parts of trauma is that sometimes the body reacts first, and the explanation comes later, if it comes at all. You hear a sound and your body jolts. Someone stands too close and your chest tightens. A certain smell makes your stomach drop. A conflict at work leaves you shaky for hours. A particular road, hospital corridor, kind of car, or tone of voice changes something in your body before you have even consciously worked out why. That is not you being ridiculous. It is often your system making a rapid survival judgment based on past learning. Not always accurate, not always helpful now, but often fast. This is one reason trauma-informed care puts such emphasis on safety, trust, pace, choice, and collaboration. When a person's nervous system is easily activated, pushing them too hard, moving too fast, or ignoring their sense of safety can do real harm. You can know something intellectually and still feel something very different physically. That is not weakness. That is often trauma. Fight, flight, freeze, and shutdown. Most people have heard of fight or flight. A lot fewer people have had freeze and shutdown properly explained to them. Fight can look like anger, defensiveness, irritability, argument, or becoming sharp very quickly. Flight can look like anxiety, urgency, restlessness, leaving, overworking, over-explaining, always staying busy, or feeling like you need to get out. Freeze can look like going blank, feeling stuck, becoming unable to speak, not knowing what to do, hesitating, or feeling caught in place. Shutdown can look like numbness, collapse, exhaustion, disconnection, emotional flatness, dissociation, or a sense that the system has simply pulled the power down. These responses are not random personality quirks. They are survival patterns. People also move between them. One day may be panic and reactivity, the next may be numbness and total flatness. Why trauma feels physical. When people hear trauma discussed, they often expect emotional language. What they do not always expect is jaw clenching, tight shoulders, headaches, stomach issues, poor digestion, nausea, racing heart, breath holding, fatigue, muscle tension, sleep disturbance, being easily startled, feeling sick before ordinary events, body pain that flares around stress, or the strange sense of being both exhausted and wired at the same time. Recent peer-reviewed work links post-traumatic stress with more frequent and more severe pain, and with cardiorespiratory, musculoskeletal, gastrointestinal, and neurological symptoms. That does not mean every ache or stomach cramp is trauma. It does mean the body and mind are not separate little departments working independently. Stress physiology, arousal, sleep disruption, muscle guarding, breath patterns, inflammation pathways, attention to threat, and altered body awareness can all shape physical experience. So when someone says, "I carry it in my body," they are often pointing to something real in a practical, lived experience way. Interoception and body awareness. Interoception is simply the awareness of what is happening inside your body. Things like heartbeat, hunger, tension, breathing, nausea, fullness, warmth, shakiness, and butterflies. For some people with trauma, internal body signals can become confusing, dulled, overwhelming, or hard to interpret. Recent research supports a meaningful relationship between PTSD symptoms and altered interoceptive awareness. Why does that matter? Because if your internal body cues feel chaotic, vague, frightening, or disconnected, everyday regulation becomes harder. You may struggle to notice that you are stressed until you are already overwhelmed. You may confuse anxiety with a medical emergency or ignore body cues completely until you crash. This is part of why some trauma work includes very gentle body awareness, not because everyone needs to get into their body immediately, but because noticing internal signals safely can be part of recovery for some people. Triggers and the nervous system. One of the clearest ways people notice trauma living in the nervous system is through triggers. A trigger is often a cue that the nervous system links with past danger. Sometimes that cue is obvious, like a smell, a place, a date, a siren, a song, a touch, or a sound at night. Sometimes it is incredibly subtle, like a pause in someone's voice, a slammed cupboard, the feeling of being trapped, or the look on someone's face. Triggers do not always arrive with a helpful label. Your body just goes. Your heart rate changes, your breathing changes, your mind narrows, your stomach drops, your skin prickles, you go blank, you get angry, you want to leave, you cannot think. Then, because you are a reasonable person trying to make sense of an unreasonable moment, you start judging yourself. Often the better question is not what is wrong with me, but what might my system have recognized here. Panic, alarm, and body memory. Panic is one of the clearest demonstrations that trauma is not just intellectual. Panic can feel like heart pounding, chest tightness, shaking, dizziness, tunnel vision, nausea, unrealness, tingling, heat, cold, urgency, and the absolute conviction that something is badly wrong. People often say, panic feels like they are dying, losing control, or going crazy. Even when a person knows they have panicked before and survived it, that knowledge does not necessarily stop the body from reacting again. That is because panic is not only a thinking problem, it is a full body alarm state. This is why telling a traumatized person to just calm down is usually useless. What helps more is understanding that the system is in alarm and then working with grounding, pacing, breath, orientation to the present, safe connection, and trauma-informed support. Numbness, dissociation, and unrealness. Not everyone with trauma looks distressed in the way people expect. Some people go numb, some dissociate, some feel detached from their body, from other people, from time, or from reality itself. Things can feel dreamlike, unreal, far away, muffled, or foggy. A person may say, "I feel like I'm watching myself from a distance," or "I know I'm here, but I don't feel fully here." Dissociative experiences are increasingly recognized in trauma research and often involve different psychophysiological patterns from the more visibly hyper-aroused trauma response. Many people feel ashamed of dissociation. They think it means they are broken, lazy, vague, or not trying. But dissociation is often protective. It is one of the ways the system creates distance from overwhelm. That does not make it pleasant. It can be scary and disruptive, but it often makes more sense when understood as survival rather than defect. Why sleep gets hit so hard. Sleep is often where people first notice that trauma is not just in their head. The body does not always stand down at night. A person can be exhausted and still unable to settle. They may wake at the slightest sound. They may have nightmares, restless sleep, sweats, tension, or the feeling that bedtime is somehow unsafe, even when they do not consciously think of it that way. When the nervous system is primed for threat, real rest can be harder. Hyperarousal and sleep disturbance are commonly described in Australian PTSD guidance, including Phoenix Australia's consumer recovery materials. And this creates a brutal loop. Poor sleep lowers resilience. Lower resilience makes regulation harder. Harder regulation increases arousal. Increased arousal disrupts sleep again. Why counselling has to respect the nervous system. If trauma affects the nervous system, then the way support is offered matters enormously. You cannot just bulldoze someone into disclosure and call that healing. You cannot assume that if a person is quiet, they are resistant. You cannot treat shutdown like non-compliance. You cannot rush trust. Good trauma-informed counselling often includes moving at a tolerable pace, checking consent, not forcing disclosure, helping people notice activation, using grounding and orientation, respecting the person's sense of safety, and building understanding before diving into the hardest material. Not every trauma conversation is therapeutic just because trauma is being discussed. Sometimes talking too much, too fast, too soon can make things worse. That is one reason responsible trauma work is careful work. Resources shaping this episode. A lot of the framing in this episode is consistent with the Victorian Government's framework for trauma-informed practice, which emphasises trauma's impact on the nervous system, relationships, behaviour and well-being, and grounds practice in safety, trust, choice, collaboration and empowerment. This episode is also informed by Phoenix Australia's Australian Guidelines for PTSD, which are the Australian evidence-based guidelines for acute stress disorder, PTSD and complex PTSD. The Australian Institute of Family Studies Trauma-Informed Guidance also reinforces that trauma-informed approaches are about understanding, recognising and responding to the effects of trauma on well-being and behaviour. In addition, recent peer-reviewed work on interoception, somatic symptoms, autonomic responses, and body and movement-oriented interventions helps inform the body-based aspects of this discussion. I say that because trauma gets talked about badly online all the time. There is a lot of confident nonsense out there, so it matters to be honest about what we are leaning on. What actually helps? This is not the episode where I pretend I can solve a traumatized nervous system in 6 cheerful dot points. That would be dishonest. But there are things that can help. The first is understanding. When a person starts to see their reactions as nervous system responses rather than proof of weakness, shame often loosens a little. The second is learning to notice activation earlier, not when you are already in full panic or complete shutdown, earlier. What happens in your body before the spiral? The third is grounding in the present, looking around the room, feeling your feet on the floor, naming 5 things you can see, holding something cold, orienting to where you are, slowing the exhale, letting your body register even for a moment that this is now and not then. The fourth is respecting pace. A lot of people try to heal by forcing. Sometimes a traumatized nervous system responds badly to being pushed. Sometimes what helps most is small doses, small returns, and small bits of safety repeated over time. The fifth is good support. Not all support is equal. Trauma-informed support should feel respectful, collaborative, paced, and safe enough to be useful. If you take one thing from today's episode, let it be this: your body is not betraying you for no reason. If trauma still seems to live in your chest, your stomach, your sleep, your muscles, your startle response, your panic, your numbness, your fog, your shutdown, or your constant scanning for danger, there may be more sense in that than you think. The body can learn danger deeply, and with the right support, it can also begin to learn safety again. Not instantly, not neatly, not through pressure or shame, but gradually, respectfully, and often in ways that begin with understanding. If this episode has brought anything up for you, Please be gentle with yourself and consider reaching out to your GP, a qualified counsellor, psychologist, or a trusted support person. If you are in immediate danger in Australia, call 000. If you need immediate crisis support, Lifeline is available on 131114. Before we finish, please remember that this podcast is here to provide general information, education, and support, but it is not a substitute for personalised counselling, mental health care, medical advice, or crisis support. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapeutic relationship with Blue Oak Counselling or with me as the host. This podcast is copyrighted by Blue Oak Counselling, and all rights are reserved. If you found this episode helpful, please follow and subscribe to the Safe Place podcast, Blue Oak Counselling, and feel free to share it with someone who may need it too. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, take care of yourself, go gently, and remember that healing can begin with understanding.